In Callum Cross, an explosion exposes misdeeds, leading to murder. Can Barnaby and Jones crack the case like an egg? Or will they trip over themselves and their new sergeant? We're talking team building.
The history of the Lord of Misrule.
And a very bleak Christmas in this episode of
Welcome to Midsomer.
Hello, and welcome to Midsomer, the podcast where we dissect all the mysteries, the murders, and the many weird things about the long-running hit TV show Midsomer Murders. I'm your host, Eric Buscher, and with me as always is my co-host, Eileen Becker. Happy holidays, Eileen!
Happy holidays, Eric! Today we are talking about Days of Misrule, the 6th episode of the 11th series. It originally aired December 24th, 2008. It was directed by Rennie Rye and written by Elizabeth Ann Wheel. Let's jingle our bells.
Gross, Eileen.
You wrote it.
Spoiler warning, we will be discussing the events of this episode, including the identity of the murderer. So if you haven't watched it yet and don't want to know who done it, give yourself the present of pausing this and watching it. We'll still be here when you get back.
Ready to kick out the jams, Tom?
Never readier, sir.
It's John, remember? We're dispensing with hierarchies today, Tom. And why? Because in order to fight crime today, we need to reboot our relationships as well as our systems.
Rebooting, I say, sir.
John, which is why I'm here. With help from you guys, we can park a really lean, mean policing machine here at Corston.
At a pub in Callum Woods, bartender Layla Barkham angrily watches James Parks. Jamie, to everyone he hates, which is everyone. He's hanging out with his girlfriend. Jamie crudely propositions Layla and smirks when she says she would rather kill herself. He receives a call and is told to come to the car park across the street. Jamie and unseen man go off to the man's car where they argue over money and the man pulls a gun. They fight and Jamie gets away. Later that night, the man stumbles through the woods where he runs into somebody in the dark and they begin to fight. The gun goes off and later we see someone drop a large, very heavy toolbox into a nearby lake where it sinks to the bottom. Cue the credits. At Coston Police HQ, the new acting CS John Cotton is taking the whole force on a team building trip right before the Christmas holiday. Tom is not thrilled with his new and younger boss, who seems more interested in modern corporate speak than actual police work. Tom's really not thrilled that Cotton wants everyone to use first names for the day. The team will be out in Callum Woods at a training center for potential military recruits run by Colonel Matt Parks, Jamie's dad. They also run Parks Agricultural Freight, which transports materials from France back to the UK. But Jamie and driver Dale Mitchinson seem to be transporting some secret stuff in a hidden compartment. The colonel has a number of his former soldiers working for him at the center. George Barkham is his dedicated second-in-command. He lives with his wife Nina and their daughter Layla, who we met in the beginning. Nina is in a wheelchair ever since a hit-and-run accident left her paralyzed. Then there's Tim Galsworthy and his wife Penny, who are both still grieving the suicide of their daughter Jilly in their own way. Tim runs a garage for high-end autos with his fellow soldier Ed Lovell. Penny stalks the man who she feels is responsible for her daughter's death, Jamie. Jamie also has Tim and Ed doing some dodgy work for him. He's got his fingers in a lot of crooked little pies. No pun intended. That night, while Tom and the CS butt heads on the training course, Joyce joins a caroling group led by Carolyn Halsey, Jamie's grandmother. She's a peacenik who turned her military father's home into a hospital treating wounded soldiers. Meanwhile, Penny heads to the park's agricultural center dressed in camouflage. She watches as security guard Don Mitchison checks on the trucks before a phone call makes him rush back to the guard hut. The caller just hangs up, so as Don returns towards the garage, it explodes! Penny watches, thrilled. Later on, she tells Carolyn that this won't stop until she dies or he dies. Barnaby and Jones are called to the scene of the explosion. The colonel is helpful. Jamie is not. Jones went to school with Jamie and remembers him as being I believe the word is prat. Don is in the hospital, but should be fine, and they find evidence that the explosion was caused by a bomb on the truck. They see Layla hanging around, but she runs off before they can question her. The colonel finds Jamie drinking with his young girlfriend right after the explosion, and the two get into an argument. The next day, the detectives interview the Mitchinsons, and Don lies for Dale, saying he checked in the truck from Dale's trip to Marseille. But in truth, Jamie lured him away with a hot racing tip. Don fills them in on the phone call, which makes Barnaby think the arsonist was the caller, trying to keep Don from getting blown up. They find Layla and ask her about her relationship with Jamie. She says she hates him and that he was involved with Jilly, getting her pregnant and then denying the child was his. Jilly had a breakdown and hung herself in the woods. Jamie also cost her father a partnership with Parks Agricultural. So they go back and interview Tim and Penny again. Tim says he doesn't blame the Parks, but Penny sure as hell does. She believes Jamie raped Jilly and is a sexual predator. She does her midnight maneuvers to watch him so he can't hurt anyone else. She admits to being there for the explosion, but she denies causing it. Tom tells her to stay away from Jamie, but she is clearly going to keep going. And over at the lake, that toolbox from the beginning, it floats right back up to the surface. Wonder what's inside. Tourist info. This is our one and only time in Callum Cross. It is the home of Parks Agricultural Services, a hospital for veterans, and a training course for military recruits. Note for people interested in moving there, nights can be really noisy. Lots of things go and bang in Callum Cross.
The Callum Cross Inn was played by the Windmill Pub in Chipperfield, Herefordshire. It's a lovely pub with a couple rooms to rent and what looks to be a very nice cat. Or an evil cat. It's really hard to tell with cats.
Do you think that cat's a munitions expert?
Maybe.
Well, it's December. It's time for the holidays, so I will say this. We used our normal method of selecting this episode, which is a random number generator. And turns out we randomly picked a Christmas episode for the holidays. So the system really wanted us to do this one. And yes, this is a Christmas episode. It doesn't feel super Christmassy, but it is set during the holidays and ends on Christmas Eve.
Yep.
It aired on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. There are a lot of Christmas carols that play through this, and they feel weirdly disjointed from what's going on in the episode. But hey, tidings of comfort and joy, right?
It's just not a Christmas episode. I mean, it's got like a super bleak ending. It's we don't ever actually see them doing, like, outside of the carol thing. Nothing's really decorated. We don't spend time at the Barnaby's house where there's a Christmas tree or anything like that. It almost feels like they had a script and then they realized when it was going to come out. And they're like, okay, how do we add some Christmas stuff to this?
Well, we need to give Joy some stuff to do. Let's make her a caroler.
Why not? She probably took a class in it. She's doing the caroling with Caroline. Caroline the Caroler.
Yeah, of course.
Penny doesn't feel up to singing, though. I'm like, why are you there?
She's there to turn over all the Christmas cards in Caroline's house.
Oh, my God.
I thought that was actually a really sadly funny bit of thing that the actress did.
It's a clever little acting thing. They don't call out to it, but it is just a funny thing. I don't know about you. How often do you think they have Christmas war games?
I don't know, but maybe that's something the military people like to do. That's their version of Christmas.
He is so adamant. Can we have our war games on Christmas? It's like, I'm pretty sure the men want to do anything Christmas other than war games.
War games, yeah.
You have the Santa on the roof joke.
He knows when you're sleeping.
And did you see Barnaby gave some guy a cigar for Christmas?
I guess that's he bought a box and just handed him out with a little ribbon on him.
I'm sure Stevens was thrilled.
Yeah.
No, I put a pink bow on it for you. And then, of course, the episode ends with a white Christmas.
Sort of. It at least starts snowing, yeah.
Yeah.
At least it was filmed in winter and not in July, as the Christmas Ghost episode was. The Ghost of Christmas Past.
Yeah, but it also makes it even bleaker because it's just, it's dark all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, because it gets dark very early there because they're so far north.
A big central theme in this episode is the relationship between parents and children. First, let's start with the fun couple of the Colonel and Jamie, who seem to hate each other.
At least Jamie had no respect for his father. I think the Colonel tried very hard to love his son, and it was hard. I mean, Jamie was
unlovable.
I was going to say he's a prat, as Jones says.
Jamie's a bad dude.
Yeah.
They don't even really give it an excuse. Like, the mom died in childbirth, but the grandma seemed to want to try to help them out. But even if your grandmother hates you,
yeah,
you're pretty terrible. And Caroline hated Jamie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Then you had Tim and Penny, who lost their daughter Jilly to suicide. They are clearly a broken pair.
Mm-hmm.
Penny with her midnight maneuvers, stalking Jamie, lost in her grief. Tim, quiet through most of the episode. I just looked at them; it seemed so separate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even when they're in the same scene together, you never kind of see them together. They're always they really try to keep them like in separate frames to really
Yeah.
heighten that feeling.
And the portrayal of grief in this, I felt, was very authentic.
Yeah.
Her daughter had died around that time of year. It was the second anniversary. Of course, she's not going to want to put up Christmas decorations. My mother died around Christmas time. I don't really even put many Christmas decorations up still. So
Right.
it's just, and her anger at who she blamed for it, and probably rightfully so, also felt very tied in with that grief.
Yeah. I liked that line where Joyce asks Caroline, is Penny all right? It's like, Penny is not all right.
Yeah.
What did you think of Penny's habit of crossing her fingers behind her back all the time?
It was very childlike, and it was kind of odd. But there are people who feel, even into adulthood, that telling a lie is a sin, and that kind of makes it okay to cross your fingers.
I don't know. I just like kept watching her do that, and I was like, you are an adult woman.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
You can just lie.
Everybody else does.
Everyone else is doing it, especially on this show.
Yep.
And then, of course, we had George, Nina, and Layla. George and Nina, incredibly close.
Mm-hmm.
But Layla was just angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't quite sure where that was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the loss of her friend, the blaming of that on, she blames Jamie as well.
Mm-hmm.
But to make a very strong choice to, that we find out later in the episode, she is going to Coston to do sex work to get money to get out of the village.
Yeah. I think she feels very trapped, and she saw what being trapped had done to her friend Jilly. She fell for the worst man in town when he came back. And I think there was a serious, if I don't get out of here, I am going to either go crazy or I'm going to die, kind of feeling.
But then here's the other, why didn't she just move to Coston? Because she clearly can get to Coston and back.
Yeah, on her bicycle.
And I don't see Coston being, not like Coston is London.
No. I think she wanted to maybe go to London, or at least someplace where she felt there was more hope.
Maybe it was just weird. It's like, I want to leave town, but you are leaving town regularly. You're going to Coston.
Eric, she wants a fast car.
Do not look. We cannot play that. We cannot play that song. We will end up owing a lot of money to ASCAP. Can't even sing it. Okay, don't even start singing it.
I'm just referencing it. She wants a fast car.
Don't even
fast enough that she can fly away.
Oh God! Oh, I can just see the money going to ASCAP. Just
I did not sing. I quoted.
Mm-hmm. Another huge theme in this episode: leadership and loyalty. Or as Barnaby says, leadership, loyalty, love, they can be very dangerous things.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting the way they sort of paired how the Colonel's men treat him and how Tom treats C.S. John Cotton.
It's weird because the Colonel's men clearly respected him, even though he seemed to have a good rapport with them, but he would not ever put himself on this, we're just buddy-buddy, even though there's a hierarchy thing going on. There was in the Army and in any armed forces, there is a definite chain of command, and how you work that is how you get respect. And the Colonel obviously knew how to do it with his men, but not his son. Whatever he was doing did not work on Jamie.
No.
Cotton is trying to, and we'll talk about this a lot more, but he's trying to upend a hierarchy that really doesn't work well being upended.
No. But he also Cotton's making weird choices, like a team building exercise 2 days before Christmas.
Yeah. The whole call him John, we're all equals. But he is obviously getting up and making these speeches as their boss.
Yes, but also, who schedules a team building exercise 2 days before Christmas? That also seems to involve a huge majority of your police force, which I guess means it's just the purge for that day in Midsomer. right? Like
Yeah.
whoever heard of taking like your police force on a team building exercise?
Yeah.
The police is a quasi-military structure, right?
Mhm.
It has
Yeah.
sergeants, it has ranks, it has all this stuff. It's not a team building exercise. You follow orders.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cotton was so corporate speak, jargony. I was waiting for him to just say the word synergy.
Oh yeah. Thinking outside of the box.
Yep. Let's think outside of the box to how to solve this murder. It's like Tom does. It's called a breaking and entering.
Yeah.
It's not legal.
No.
But that's what it is. It's old school policing versus this weird corporate mindset, which,
Yeah.
I was with Tom. The CS did not, while the CS was the superior officer, he didn't seem like he wanted to run a police force. He seemed to want to run a Starbucks.
Yeah.
Although I do think half of Tom's problem was that Cotton was much younger than him.
Yeah. Yeah, which Choice points out.
Oh, yeah. Didn't like that. Tom does not like having to do paperwork, which the CS kind of wanted to do with the, what was that? A time
Timesheets. Yeah. TPS reports, whatever.
He was basically supposed to write down everything he was doing at what time. That's not a great way to solve a murder
No.
or an explosion.
Bad use of time there.
Yep. The look Jones gave when Cotton was like, "We're going to use first names today."
Jason does a great reaction shot.
Yeah. Also, he does a great 3-legged egg race. Just that's how you promote teamwork in a police force. You make them hold an egg and run around a course. It was just the silliest thing. I was just going, they're supposed to be police officers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, with the whole thing where they're on the stumps.
Yeah.
The CS was kind of right. Like if Tom had just kind of maneuvered back a little bit, they could have like worked backwards. But Tom refused, like just flat out refused.
I don't know that they could have done it. I mean, to be honest, it seems like they all should have done something to move forward one leg at a time.
True.
And the CS was like, no, we're just going to go back. And it's like, there's nowhere to go back to.
But that means they came forward from something. So like, I just don't, I think there's a thing that we didn't see out of the way that like Hughes was supposed to, I think, go back.
Yeah.
And Tom doesn't believe in teams.
No, he never has. I mean, yeah.
He doesn't like hierarchy. In America, if we saw a police officer doing this, we would probably think he's corrupt on some level.
Yeah.
I don't want to answer to you. I don't want to do what you tell me. I'm going to do things my way.
Yeah.
And by the way, Tom is a little bit corrupt because he does break and enter.
He does. He bends rules when he wants to. Yeah.
That's not bending. That's breaking. That is straight up breaking the rules.
Yeah.
It's an interesting, like Tom gets the job done.
Mm-hmm.
And he usually manages to get a confession. Because apparently criminals in Midsomer, like there's a rule, like when you're busted, you got to admit it.
Yep. Same in Cabot Cove, yeah. But the thing is, he is very hierarchical with his sergeants, as is John Barnaby. They throw their weight with them, but they don't want their superior to throw their weight around with them. And I guess that's kind of normal, and most people, hate being told what to do.
Most people with power problems.
Yeah.
But Tom is also like, he doesn't, for example, when Jones just snaps at Cotton and just says that Barnaby thinks this whole thing is rubbish. Tom forgives him, even though he kind of put him in a little hot water.
Yeah. And again, that was Cotton throwing his weight around.
Yep.
And not being, we're all on the same level. That was him saying, I'm the boss, and you're going to give me right now your assessment of your boss. And boy, was that a power play.
But he's supposed to. That's the thing is like that's his job. Like he is the colonel.
Yeah.
Police force again is a
it's
a hierarchy. It is a quasi like you are supposed to obey your orders. And Cotton was clearly being shown that nobody respected his authority. So yeah, he's going to start stamping it down.
Yeah.
The real fun thing would be if he tried to make Tom lift something with his fake tendinitis, which he was really milking. Like, ooh, my arm,
Yeah.
Oh, it's the other arm. Oh. What did you think of the big explosion?
I love the big explosion. When they do explosions, they really do them right.
That was a big one. And then
Yeah.
they showed it completely twice.
Yeah.
Really going to get that money's worth.
Oh, yeah. You're going to spend that much money on an explosion, you milk it.
You know, doing the show with you, for some reason, because it happens so sporadically in the show, you don't think of it as a big explosion. And then, like, we've seen, what, four pyrotechnic explosions?
Mm-hmm.
2 big ones. There's this one, and then the one of the movie set, the guy's thing explodes, right? There's a lot more explosions in the show than I remember. Since it's referenced in the title, we're going to talk a little bit, or Eileen is going to talk a little bit about the Lord of Misrule in Eileen's History Corner.
It took several centuries for festivals and holy days to be codified in the early Christian church, and Christmas is not even on the earliest liturgical calendars. While the Nativity of Jesus is an important part of the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, neither mention a season, a date, or a year, obviously, and scholars have spent centuries arguing over grazing sheep and counting 9 months from the vernal equinox. However, sometime in the 4th century of the Common Era, December 25th was settled on as the day to celebrate Jesus' birth. It was also celebrated as the Roman date of the winter solstice, the feast of Sol Invictus, as well as around the time of the popular Roman festival Saturnalia, which saw as part of the traditions feasts in which master and servant dined together or sometimes switched places. Over the centuries, the feast days and festivals of Christmastide developed. Advent, the period of preparation before Christmas, came along around the 5th century, while the Feast of the Epiphany, which celebrates the visit of the Magi, the baptism of Jesus, and the wedding at Cana, was celebrated much earlier from around 200 CE. The 12 days of Christmas, famous in song, run from Christmas Day to Epiphany Eve, or Twelfth Night for us Shakespeare fans. During the Middle Ages, the Feast of Fools developed in southern France or Central Europe and was celebrated on January 1st. Participants would elect a false bishop, archbishop, or even pope, often from lower church personnel, or sometimes a boy bishop chosen from the choir. The ecclesiastical purpose of this upending of church hierarchy, echoed in earlier Roman traditions of Saturnalia and the Kalends of January, in which servants and masters traded places, was to illuminate the temporal nature of all earthly things, including wealth and status. In medieval England, the Lord of Misrule developed, and he would be appointed to oversee the Christmastide festivities. Usually a peasant or subdeacon of the church, the Lord of Misrule would preside over several days of feasting in the houses of the great lords, as well as at court. His reign could last from 12 days to 3 months, and one chronicle has his rule running from Halloween to Candlemas on February 2nd. The entertainment involved elaborate masks and processions, plays of an often comedic nature, mock courts, and feasts. Scotland had a similar figure, grandly called the Abbot of Unreason. These festivals fell out of favor during the Reformation, and the Puritans outlawed the custom of the Lord of Misrule during the Commonwealth. It was considered disruptive and remained banned during the Restoration until it was almost forgotten. The traditions of Saturnalia and the Feast of the Fools can be seen lingering in customs such as Boxing Day, the day after Christmas in which gifts were given to servants as they were given the day off, as they did all the work during Christmas, and traditions such as the Servants' Ball, where Daisy the scullery maid and Lady Mary ostensibly had a wonderful time hanging out together. In the British Armed Forces, it's been a tradition for officers to serve enlisted men their Christmas dinner. December 26th is also known as St. Stephen's Day, or the Feast of Stephen for you Good King Wenceslas fans. That song, which we hear several times in the episode, describes the titular king and his reluctant page seeing a peasant in the snow and putting together a feast of flesh and wine and dining with him. So what does all this have to do with Midsummer? Just think of Chief Superintendent Cotton, call him John, as Wenceslas, Barnaby as the page who whines about it being cold, and poor Ben Jones as the peasant. Sometimes upending the social order means all 3 of you fall off the log into the mud.
Eileen, why don't you take us into the cast highlights?
Okay. Joseph Milson was douchebag who always wears jackets, Jamie Parks. Seriously, he's in a jacket in almost every scene, even when he's at home. He's appeared in Peak Practice, The Sarah Jane Adventures, Holby City, Casino Royale, and Moon Knight. He's also a screenwriter and director whose first feature film, Signs of Life, should be coming out sometime in the near future. His memoir came out in 2022 and is called Work and Other Four-Letter Words. Niamh Cusack played Midnight Maneuverer Penny Galsworthy. She's a part of the Irish Cusack acting family, not the American Cusack acting family. Those two have been at war for years. Neve has an extensive career on the English stage, most notably in the original production of The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. On screen, she's appeared in Heartbeat, Testament of Youth, The Tower, and The Virtues. Her sister Sinead was our village star for Death and the Divas, while her other sister Sorcia is beloved by mystery fans for her decade on Father Brown. Tony Bell was the ultimate wingman, Ed Lovell. He's a character actor who has appeared in EastEnders, Prisoners' Wives, The Game, Doctors, and The Crow. Alison Spiro played happy wife Nina Barkham. She had a long run on Emmerdale Farms in the role of Sarah Sugden. She's also appeared in Brookside, Prime Suspect 3, Doctors, and Casualty, and has a side hustle as an acting teacher. She is not disabled, so I'm curious if she would be cast in this role now. Gus Gallagher was truck driving Dale Mitchinson. He's a character actor who's appeared in Foylesworth, The Bill, and MI5. He's also played multiple characters in the video game Star Wars The Old Republic. His last credit is in 2011, and it looks like he does more restaurant management these days. Elspeth Ray was angry smoker Layla Barkham. She appeared in NCS Manhunt, Kerching, Casualty, and Doctors. She's also stopped acting and gone into the management side of things. She has her own talent agency called Monray Management. Alexandra Morris played Girl with Horrible Taste in Men, Daisy Fisher. She only has one other acting credit in the miniseries Caesar. Not really sure what happened to her, as there's a lot of Alexandra Morrises out there. So who played Alec Ranger? Who knows? The actor is uncredited, which means that the face and the voice are probably two different people. Which probably explains why we never see him actually talking in the episode. His back is always to the camera, and we only get his face when he's dead.
Mm-hmm. That's not a great face. You want to go straight into return visitors?
All right. Judy Parfitt played Peacenik Grandma Caroline Halsey. We just talked about her in Death's Shadow. Parfitt has been nominated twice for Supporting Actress BAFTAs. The first was for 1984's The Jewel in the Crown, and the second was for 2003's The Girl with a Pearl Earring. She also appeared in David Copperfield, Dolores Claiborne, Ever After, and Call the Midwife. She gave a completely different performance in this episode than in Death's Shadow. She's just a really terrific character actress.
Oh, she's fantastic. But yeah, she was just this terrible person in Death's Shadow, and this one, just kindly loving grandma, except if you're Jamie.
Except if you're Jamie. Her relationship with Penny is very warm and supportive and trying to get her through her grief. Philip Martin Brown was loyal George Barkham. We just saw him in Things That Go Bump in the Night. He's probably best known for his role as teacher Grantley Budgeon on Waterloo Road. He's also appeared in Sleepy Hollow, The Bounty, The Worst Witch, and Death Comes to Pemberley. Again, he is playing a completely different role this time.
He was a nasty man in Things That Go Bump in the Night who had a nasty end.
Yeah.
And in this one, he was actually again, loyal, loving, supportive,
Yeah.
willing to trade his life for his colonel's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to leave his wheelchair-bound wife alone while he goes to prison. It didn't say he was smart. It just said he was loyal.
Yeah. Tom Beer played quiet mechanic Tim Galsworthy. We will see him in Murder on St. Mally's Day. He made his on-screen debut in the episode of Heartbeat and went on to appear in Stayin' Alive, Vanity Fair, Party Animals, Wallander, and The Hollow Crown. Sadly, he passed away from pancreatic cancer in 2015.
There is a moment in this episode where Barnaby and Tim explain they met at the Midsomer Tattoo, which I had to look up because I didn't know what the heck. I was like, I don't think Tom has a tattoo. And I guess this means that I guess there is a term tattoo, which is an outdoor military exercise given by troops as evening entertainment, which I had never heard of. I think you have, though.
Yeah, I think you have to go to like battle reenactments and go to places like Colonial Williamsburg to really understand what a tattoo is.
Yeah,
a military tattoo.
Yeah,
I do that.
Yeah, I know you do that. History nerd.
Yep. Sidney Livingstone played Almost Blown Up Don Mitchinson. He's also in A Talent for Life. He was an apprentice chef, salesman, plumber's merchant, and engineer before he joined the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. He had a long career with the RSC, appearing in multiple productions. On screen, he's been in Doctors, Noble, About a Boy, Twelfth Night, and The Devil's Hour. Nick Fletcher played Timesheet Levin C.S. John Cotton, and will play him again in The Dogleg Murders. His first on-screen role was in Grange Hill, followed by True Dare Kiss, A Doll's House, The Wife, and Conspiracy of Silence. His most recent role is that of concert announcer in Trolls Band Together. Adam Curley played Harry. Remember him? I don't. Anyway, he's also in the episode Sins of Commission, but in that episode he's one of the stunt performers. Curley works as a stunt performer and coordinator in a number of films like The Little Mermaid, The Kingsman, Batman Begins, V for Vendetta, and The Old Guard. This is his only acting credit. Anthony Farrelly was uncredited as a police officer in this episode. He's appeared as a background actor in 18 Midsomer episodes, as well as Poldark, Sherlock, and Sharknado 5, the real classic of the series. And of course, our beloved mayor of Midsomer, Chris Wilson, played an uncredited police officer, and I hope he really got to do some of the egg racing.
And that means our village star for the week is the great Tim Pigott-Smith, who played conflicted daddy Colonel Matt Parks. Pigott-Smith had a great career on stage going back to when he was just regular old Tim Smith. I guess he had to change his name because of actor equity.
Actor Guild, yeah.
Yep. He worked with the National Theatre and the RSC. In 2014, he was the title character in the play King Charles, playing the then Prince of Wales becoming king, and was nominated for an Olivier and a Tony, as well as starring in the film adaptation. Now, on screen, his big break was in 1984's The Jewel in the Crown, followed by roles in The Chief, The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher, and North and South. His film roles include Clash of the Titans, Remains of the Day, Gangs of New York, and Bloody Sunday. He passed away in 2017 from a heart attack, the same year he was awarded an OBE. Now, in an interview, he described his thoughts on playing bad guys and villains, which he did a lot in his career. I never think of the people that I play as being bad, because I don't think most people, even if they are terrible, think of themselves as being bad. I think that may be part of the trick of it.
He's very good in this, and I do think Jamie thought he was bad, but anyway. I did like him as King Charles, who I don't normally care much for, but he was, he kind of made me like him. And I like that in that play, Harry actually does end up in a relationship with a black woman.
I thought he was great in this episode. I recall seeing him in things, but he's the make of a good character actor is you don't really stand out, right?
Yeah.
Like you just melt in with your character. I thought he did a great job in this, especially at the ending. Mm-hmm. He earned his star this week, and I just wish he was in more episodes. But
yeah,
c'est la vie. All right, we're gonna take a quick break here, and we'll be back in a moment with the second half of Days of Misrule.
From God any Father, blessed angel came, and unto certain shepherds brought tidings of the saints, how that in Bethlehem was born the Son of God by name. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
And we're back. Let's talk about the second half of Days of Misrule.
Don't you realize, son? Everything comes with a cost. Sooner or later, someone...
You still don't get it, do you, Dad? All your truth, honour, loyalty, and morals crap. It's the bastards who get what they want in this world, not the good guys.
Barnaby and Jones arrive at the lake, where the body of the man from the opening has been found in the toolbox. Go figure. Coroner Bullard tells him that the body's natural gases caused it to come to the surface. There's no ID, but some skin discoloration on the body makes Bullard think the man was from another country, or had been living in another country. No one admits to recognizing a photo of the body, although it's a really terrible photo, so who could blame him? They find the dead man's car, a rental that was reported stolen, and inside they find evidence that the dead guy is one Alex Granger, a criminal with a long rap sheet, currently living in France. They also find an envelope containing a speeding ticket for Alex's car that occurred when Alex was on a trip and couldn't possibly have been driving. They talk to Tim and Ed, who deny knowing Granger, but Barnaby notices they are working on a different fancy car than they were the day before. Barkham says that after his wife's accident, he wanted to focus more on her needs than the job, so he was okay with losing the partnership. In fact, the Colonel paid for everything they needed since her accident. He admits that he saw Granger and Jamie in the pub parking lot, and that Granger kept trying to push an envelope into Jamie's hands. Since Jamie lied to them about knowing Granger, they bring him in for questioning. Jamie claims that Granger is the father of another girl Jamie had been seeing, and when the girl got pregnant, she tried to say it was his child. Sounds familiar. He also claims Granger demanded money for child support, and Jamie refused, so Granger pulled out a gun. The two fought, and Granger fell down, hitting his head on a rock. Jamie ran away, but Granger was still alive. Bullard backs him up, saying the wounds from the fight with Jamie happened an hour earlier than the fatal wounds. Also, the first wounds were from a left-handed person, and the second wounds were from a right-handed person. This will never come back in the episode, but it's enough to get them to let Jamie go. Meanwhile, his father is unhappy with something the techs pull from the bomb wreckage that we can't see just yet. The detectives find out that Granger bought his Bentley from Tim 2 years ago, so Tim lied about not knowing him too. When they question him, Ed pipes up and lets them know they were working on a car the night Granger was murdered. Stevens does the research and discovers Granger's daughter has no child and in fact was never pregnant, so Jamie has lied again. She also diddles the image, those are her words, from the speeding ticket and show that a pair of Park's overalls were in the back window. So they head over to the woods where the Colonel is having some more games to look for Jamie. A scream sends everyone dashing out into the woods in the dark on a search. At a cabin, they discover Penny and Carol helping a sobbing, blood-covered Layla, and the body of James stabbed to death right next to a big bag full of money. When they are interviewed, Layla says that Jamie found out she was doing sex work in Coston and was blackmailing her, asking her to meet him at the cabin to pay him off. She told Caroline, who said she would come with her, and Penny tagged along to keep them both safe. Penny says she had no plans to kill him and was just happy to see him leave. Layla was covered in blood because she tripped and landed on the body in the dark. Jamie was stabbed with an Army-issued clasp knife, but not the one that Penny was carrying. They also learn a Bugatti hubcap was found in the bomb wreckage, which gives Tom the old Barnaby brain fart. He goes to Don, who admits Jamie checked in the truck, and this leads Tom to conclude that Jamie was leading a stolen car ring that would also steal cars' identifications to use on them. They would steal the cars in France, break them down, and then ship them in pieces in the hidden compartment to Midsomer, where Tim and Ed would reassemble them. When Granger got the ticket, he knew a scam when he saw one, so he went to Jamie to get his beak wet, leading to the altercation. They go to Tim and Ed, who tell them that after Jilly's death, Tim let the business go to hell. So when Jamie offered them cash to do one job, they took it, and then found themselves now a part of the ring they couldn't get out of. Ed reveals he planted the bomb to help his friend and to get the Colonel to start looking at Jamie's business. Penny confirms that the two did not murder Jamie because they were not near the woods at the time of the murder. So the arson case is wrapped up, but this is not called Midsomer Arsons. This is Midsomer Murders. So what about these two murders? Well, they found a bloody knife in the woods that belonged to George Barkham, but the blade does not match the wounds. George tries to say he did it, but they know he planted the knife to throw off suspicion and take the blame for the one man he is most loyal to, the Colonel. When they arrest him, we get the reveal. After his confrontation with Granger, Jamie ran home covered in blood, convinced he had killed someone. The Colonel went to the woods to investigate and discovered Granger still alive. They fought, and he ended up killing the man in self-defense. He used a toolbox he had in his car to sink the man in the lake. He had hoped this would scare Jamie to clean up his act, but Jamie was too far down his road. When he saw the Bugatti hubcap and the debris, he figured out Jamie was up to something, and he got the full story from Tim. Knowing he had to stop his son from hurting more people, he asked him to meet him at the cabin, hoping to convince Jamie to turn himself in. But Jamie was planning to leave the country and told his dad that he was responsible for running over Nina. They struggled, and the Colonel stabbed his son to death. Carolyn tries to offer the Colonel some solace, but there will be no consoling the Colonel this Christmas.
Okay.
As we said, not the cheeriest of Christmas episodes.
Ho, ho, ho.
Strange kill this week is the body in the toolbox. Not really a kill, I guess, just more of a method of disposal. I do love that it comes back to the surface because of gas.
Yeah.
Our killer this week was the Colonel. He really was trying to be a good dad and just a good guy. And his son just absolutely sucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
That way he says, my son was not a good man.
I think he had tried to be both mother and father to him, with Caroline stepping in a bit, and they both realized that he was, I guess, completely irredeemable.
Yep. Jamie was pretty bad. Like, he crippled Nina, on some level responsible for the suicide of Jilly, blackmailing Layla, blackmailing Tim, blackmailing Ed, running in a crooked car. Like, honestly, when they said that, they were coming back from Marseille, I was thinking drugs, which doesn't seem too far off for Jamie.
Yeah.
Should the Colonel get a medal? Seemed like he stopped a lot of crime.
Yeah. Nobody's going to be missing Jamie.
No. His face, when they come back from the flashback, this is a haunted man.
Yeah.
This is a man carrying the weight of his sins on him.
Yeah. And also, again, fantastic camera work from the camera crew with the way they transitioned from the flashback to that scene. It was
camera and editing. Great camera and editing.
Always top notch on Midsomer. Yep. When the Colonel is being interviewed, he almost reverts at some point to a childlike state, the way he shakes his head. No, when he's asked if he intended to kill Jamie when he went into the woods. He reverts to this kind of childlike nature of himself that I guess we all have in ourselves, and it kind of, in a way, is part of the subversion of hierarchy that's a theme throughout this episode, because he becomes a childlike in that way.
And also, again, this is a good man who is carrying the weight of killing two men.
Yeah.
One of them his son, and one of them to protect his son.
Yeah.
Great performance. And even performing in the performance, because he's so shocked when the body of Jamie is discovered. Which is an act, but also him having to really take a look at what he's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, the knife noise when you hear Jamie getting stabbed was pretty hard. Pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, that hurts.
Yeah.
Even Caroline was broken up by the violence of Jamie's death.
And I think by the fact that the Colonel was driven to it by Jamie. Yeah.
She has that wonderful comment about grandparents' love is not unconditional.
And
the Colonel's final line is basically, don't pity me.
Yeah.
And now everyone's out of a job.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Jamie is really one of the all-time just jerks on this show.
Yeah.
Or as he puts it, it's the bastards who get what they want in this world, not the good guys.
Yeah.
Do you think the car theft ring was needlessly complicated?
It was, and it was one of those things where I didn't really understand it until I kind of watched the episode a couple times.
So they break up the car, and they put it behind a secret panel in the truck.
Yeah.
But is it multiple trips? Because engines and stuff like that are hard to break down.
Yeah.
Who is doing the breakdown on the other side? And then Tim and Ed seemingly putting them cars back together overnight.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is possible for a 2-man job.
They have whole assembly lines putting cars together.
Yeah. And then there was the whole thing where Jamie needs to get Don away from the guard shack so he could check the truck in, right?
Yeah.
Everything was in a secret panel, and Dom seemed to be kind of dumb. He would never have seen it, so why would they trick him to go away?
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed unnecessary, yeah, but it was a clue.
Wasn't even not the bombing. I'm talking about when he's checking in the thing.
No, yeah, I know, but him pulling him away was a clue.
Yeah, but it's not really a necessary clue.
Yeah.
Barnaby is one of those great intuitive thinkers. He just knows what it is.
Yeah.
Jamie also had a penchant or penchant for underage girls.
Yeah.
Which was gross.
Yeah.
That girl that he's hanging out with in the who doesn't get he gets one line.
Yeah.
She's 17.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Poor girl. Yeah.
He's needlessly aggressive with everyone. It's he's listened too much to Steve Bannon's podcast. He's gotta be the alpha. I'm no beta.
And yet he is basically the Lord of Misrule in all of this. He's the lower guy who's been promoted literally to partner in his father's firm. But he's ruling over this massive criminal enterprise that has so many things going on.
But he it's this thing though, is one would feel that you learn how to cover your tracks, and you do it with charm and not with just being a huge jerk. Like, he refuses to shake Tom's hand, which is just one of those things. Is like, why would you call needless attention to yourself with a policeman?
Yeah.
Who is going to be poking through everything?
Let's face it, Jamie, a good sociopath knows how to charm his victims or the people who are investigating him so that they don't suspect him. You just put a huge red flag out right on your head and danced around with it.
Yeah. It was just he was needlessly a jerk.
Yeah.
When he needed to be, like, he just knew how to throw. It's interesting is, like, again, looking at leadership, right? He runs his criminal enterprise just by throwing weight around everywhere, as opposed to the colonel who knows how to inspire. Like, Jamie is more like Tom than Tom would probably want to admit.
Yeah.
Although Tom does not have that ridiculous ringtone on his phone.
No.
Which apparently that was the theme to a show called Parkinson, which was a long-running chat show in the UK. Not sure why it was on Jamie's phone. One of those weird things I think the sound design guys were just having a laugh on.
Yeah.
So when Layla gets out of the car from Jamie, right, and at the pub, Caroline's hanging out in front of the pub. Why?
I don't think there was a whole lot else to do in that village.
She didn't seem like someone who was just hanging out at the pub waiting for the pub to open.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really funny. It was just like, I see her, like, she's just kind of standing waiting. It was like, are you waiting for your scene? Checking in at corner. Not a lot for Bullard to do this episode. More of an info dump. However, there is the scene where the colonel discovers the Bugatti hubcap and gets it handed to him by a lab tech. Now, this lab tech, we do not see the face, we do not see the name, we do not hear anything. However, the lab tech is a woman with a blonde ponytail. Tamsin? Is this Bullard? Like, we never get the story of how she takes on Bullard's job. Was she promoted from within?
Yeah. Kate Wilding prequel there.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh wow. I think it's one of those things where just just fortune happens. We end up building continuity where there is none intended. Yeah. But I just thought that was just one of those funny little background moments that, we can build a whole, I'm sure somewhere there is a Midsomer fan fiction of what Kate Wilding's life was like before.
Yeah. I don't want to read that fan fiction because all those fan fictions tend to have weird things going on with them.
Are you saying that you're worried that there's going to be like weird sex stuff in this? Yeah, probably. But I mean, for you, probably have a lot more naked Jason Hughes in that fan fiction.
I can write my own fan fiction. Thank you very much.
Again, anyone who's listening, if you discover Eileen's secret Jason Hughes sex fan fiction website, please email us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. I'd love to know about it. Merry Christmas, Eileen. So, detective work. Again, like in the second half, we get even more fighting between Cotton and Barnaby, where Tom just straight up continues to disobey commands, showing that he does not respect Cotton's authority. When he gets that real-time review, he just drops it straight in the trash. And then at one point, it's handed back to him, and he holds it like he's holding a bag of dog poop.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, make Jones do it.
Yeah.
That's why you have Jones.
Yeah.
You can do this crap. You're telling me Jones isn't already doing all the paperwork?
He already is. Yep.
He ignores his phone call. He lies to Cotton's face about the lab techs being sick, and thus that's why Jones and Steven are doing this meaningless grunt work.
Which they shouldn't have been. And
no.
the CS was right about that whole thing. Yeah. And it was a stupid lie.
Like, I'm beginning to think that the reason that Tom doesn't like this guy is he's worried this guy's going to tell him that he can't abuse Jones and Stevens anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which he shouldn't be doing anyways.
Yeah, I'll probably crack it down on that whole breaking and entering thing he likes to do too.
Yeah. Oh, you're not going to let me like break it, like sneak around in people's places illegally anymore? What a jerk.
Illegal search and seizure is no longer allowed? What the hell?
And at the end, he rubs Cotton's nose in the fact that he's going to have to pay overtime.
Yeah.
Maybe Tom leaves the force, not because he wanted to. No, I want to be retired.
I guess they just made it into too much of a lean, mean policing machine for him.
God. That was one of the funniest lines in this whole thing.
I know. It was cringe and hysterical.
And it's exactly what Cotton would say.
Oh, yeah.
Now, to the actual detective work in this case, with the murder of Granger, right, in the toolbox, for some reason, Jones jumps immediately to Jamie being involved. And my question is, why? There's no indication that these two cases are even connected at that point.
Because Jamie was a prat to him in school.
How many of Jones' school bullies have been arrested in Midsomer for crimes they did not commit? It was just a weird thing of just like, wait. If they had waited for him to do that in 5 minutes in the episode, the cases would have been connected. It's like literally when they find the body and the toolbox, he's like, Jamie must be involved. And like, why would you assume that?
Yeah.
I thought all the different boots in Jones's car was just hilarious.
Again, just a really funny image.
Yep. That's the classic Midsomer weirdness that we love.
Yeah.
There was a weird Barnaby. I thought this was an off-character moment, but when Layla is talking about doing sex work in Coston, he kind of looks down. He acts like he's looking down on her.
Yeah.
And that struck me as not something Barnaby normally does. He is more empathetic usually.
Yeah. And we don't see a lot of the Barnaby empathy in this until that very ending scene with the Colonel. But with Layla, it's definitely not there. And he normally is like, I don't care what you do if you're not murdering people. And he normally does have more empathy and more sympathy towards people who are kind of caught in situations they don't want to be in. And people who feel forced to go into slightly illegal criminal activity. So it's not really all that illegal in UK.
No. Now, are you saying that Barnaby had more sympathy for the older white man? Which is it's off character for him.
That is off character.
It's really off character for him. I also have to say, Nettles sounded like he was sick in this episode. Like his voice had a little more of a frog in his throat.
Yeah.
At times. I just think like just that may have affected some things. Just seemed a little. He sounded sick. Like physically, he didn't seem sick, but he sounded like he was sick. Home life. We mentioned this before. Joyce says that Cotton's cute, and I don't think that helped Tom's relationship with Cotton at all.
Yeah.
But he also did not like it when, I guess, she asked Cotton to present a check at the caroling concert over Tom.
Yeah. Because
Tom thinks that being a police detective is super prestigious.
Well, it's only £1,000 check.
And a sellout concert in Midsomer, so it was like 10 people.
Yeah. Those are the only people left alive.
Another out-of-character moment in this episode, Tom seemed to actually enjoy Joyce's cooking in a scene.
Yeah, he gave a little taste and gave the yummy sound.
I was like, this is good!
Yeah. So very out of character for Joyce to cook something that's edible.
Yeah. Or Tom to just straight out enjoy it.
Yeah.
And the most out of character thing, Tom's walking around the house with his shirt half unbuttoned and like his chest kind of poking out.
That was very shades of Bergerac.
Yeah, but it was just, why?
Yeah.
You never see that.
No.
This episode has a lot of these weird little out of character things. Which makes me think that maybe Nettles was just getting bored. Because we're not too far from when he leaves the show, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is 11. He leaves after season 13.
Yeah, so you got to find ways to entertain yourself if you're the star, but it just feels like he's getting a little bored.
Yeah, and saying, "Hey, I used to be sexy on Bergerac." and walk around with a half unbuttoned shirt.
And you're like, get out of the way. You're blocking my view of Jason Hughes. So final thoughts, Eileen.
It's a weird episode because it's a Christmas episode that doesn't feature much Christmas other than the caroling. And I like a good Christmas mystery, and I want Christmas to be kind of an element of it. And Christmas wasn't really tied in with it as kind of a feature. I think my real thing is that it's kind of an unpleasant episode.
It's a bummer.
It's a bummer. Watching it again, it was like, this is well written, well constructed, well acted, well shot. There's nothing that I can put my finger on it other than maybe the murder mystery that starts the whole thing off isn't that interesting.
Well, it stays hidden for the first half.
Yeah, and it's totally forgotten about. And so we're dealing with basically an arson.
I think, because I agree with you that there's something off about this episode, and I think it's because it shouldn't be a Christmas episode. Like I said, I think they figured out that this was going to be going out around Christmas time, so they decided, I feel like on some level when they were writing it, they were like, we'll just make, like they had a script ready, and then we'll make this a Christmas episode, so they threw a few Christmassy bits in.
Yeah.
But
it seems like almost an afterthought, though I can see the whole upending of the hierarchy in this is very much in play with the Lord of Misrule.
True, but it also just doesn't seem like it doesn't. A Christmas episode tends to embrace Christmas more on some level.
Yeah.
Even if it's ending in sort of like, because it's usually ending in sort of like, oh, we're celebrating Christmas.
Yeah.
And Midsummer's done that several times. This one, it's like, well, I guess we're going to listen to carols after like the most depressing murder thing. It doesn't have Christmas vibes.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of Christmas in it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of weird stuff that you would never do at Christmas. Like you would never have war games at Christmas.
Yeah.
You would never think to yourself like training time. Like let's do training time right before Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Even Cotton isn't dumb enough to think that that's a smart move. So it has this weird, like, that's why I kind of feel like maybe when they were writing it and they looked at the dates when this is going to be, we're going to air this at Christmas. And, you know, they're like, we need this to be a Christmas episode now. It's like, oh, okay. But they didn't, you know, Christmas stuff you don't normally think, when I think of Christmas stuff, right? Don't normally think bummer.
Yeah.
And that's the catch.
Yeah, and even though, you know, there are Christmas mysteries, you know, which is very popular, little subgenre, but they tend to have a lightness to them. And even on Midsomer, where Ghost of Christmas Past is a very serious one, but the Christmas element, because of the family, is tied in much better. This it's so remote from the action of the murders that it's almost an afterthought.
Well, Midsomer isn't a big bummer show. Like there are episodes that end that are kind of like can end with bummers, but by and large, it tends to end with some kind of connection between the detective and his family or his other detectives. It doesn't tend to end with it's Chinatown, Jake.
Yeah.
And this is a Chinatown ending in a Christmas thing.
Yeah.
And that is I think why it's weird. It's not that they're like, it's, as you said, this is a solid episode. It is structured well. It is, you know, a good mystery, good character work. But yeah, it just doesn't feel Christmassy. But it's supposed to be Christmas.
Yeah, despite them playing carols all through it, and some very peppy ones, along with, you know, Good King Wenceslas and, you know, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. There's a lot of, you know, we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Yeah. It's a lot of grief and death, dead kids. Maybe they're adults, but they're, you know, it's like parents dealing with the deaths of their children, the actions. It's a solid episode. And I think if you took Christmas out of it, I think it would be still a bummer, but I think it would work better. I think it's the Christmas elements that trip this one up more than anything.
I think for me, the Christmas elements would have worked if they had tied in more with the mystery. for me, they seemed two separate things and didn't really connect together.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like it just feels like it's thrown in.
Yeah. I don't mind a sad Christmas mystery, because there are things that happen at Christmas time that are very sad. There are people who go through bad times at Christmas due to grief and due to family issues and stuff like that. And that's very legitimate to explore through this. But for me, if it had tied in with the actual mystery better, it would have felt like a more integrated part of this episode.
Well, that's everything we wanted to talk about. If you had anything you want to discuss about Days of Misrule or Midsomer Murders, please feel free to email us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. Feel free to wish us a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays or Happy Hanukkah or whatever you do celebrate this time of year. If you want us to use the email in the show, please say so in your email. We are also Welcome to Midsomer on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, as well as YouTube, where we've been uploading our old episodes. Please follow us in all these places. If you like what you heard, please consider subscribing to us or rating and reviewing us on iTunes or Spotify. That really helps people find us. Please also turn on the automatic downloads, which is a new thing that is helping juice algorithms, apparently. Podcasts, it's the Wild West. Tell all your friends about us. We will be back in the new year with another episode, and we hope you will join us again for that. As we take the road out of Midsomer, we want to thank you for listening and remind you that in Midsomer, buying illegal Bugattis can be murder.
Just buy real ones, like I do. Or not.
You don't care what the peasants do.
I'm gonna run them over.
Welcome to Midsomer is produced by Eric Buscher and Eileen Becker. All clips in this podcast are used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act, fair use exemption for criticism and commentary. Our logo and podcast art was designed by Smeedrai. Theme music is by the infamous Space.
He passed away from pancreatic cancer in 2015.
What did he pass away from?
You said
You said pancreatic character.
Okay, now I've got to stop.